In the decision by the justices of the Supreme Court last week, court declared the General Court Martial's jurisdictions of trying civilians as unconstitutional on account that the facility is a tribunal made to only try disciplinary offences committed by men and women in military uniform serving. In the orders of the Supreme Court justices, they ordered all pending files in the General Court Martial, referred as the tribunal, to be transferred to the civilian courts through the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
All the inmates who are under the trial in the General Court Martial, all their matters are now under the jurisdiction of the courts of judicature. The Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs is also advised to immediately commence consideration of the recommendations of the Supreme Court.
Whereas government seems to be consenting to the Supreme Court's ruling, according to the principal legal advisor to government, the Attorney General, in his presentation on the floor of Parliament last evening, after closed-the-door meeting engagement, retired Dr. Kiiza Besigye and his aide Obeid Lutale's legal team, they had contrary feedback from the prisons.
That person should be released immediately because the court always says, unless otherwise lawfully held.
But unfortunately, they claim their hands are tied.
In what seemed to be a new play out on the scene today, Dr. Kiiza Besigye's wife, Winnie Byanyima, has asked court to issue an order compelling the Attorney General's office and the Commissioner General of Prisons to unconditionally release his husband and his co-accused, Hajji Obeid Lutale from Luzira government prison.
I brought an application before the court, and a second one will be filed later today in the case of Aaron Kiiza to enable warrants to be issued, warrants of release, in the names of these persons. It would have been unnecessary if the Attorney General had completed his duty of telling the prisons, release anybody whose warrant has expired.
So as we speak, Dr. Johnson Byabashija and team are holding on to those people together with hundreds of other supporters of the opposition, particularly in NUP and other parties, as well as soldiers who are languishing in custody.
In an affidavit, the case filed by her legal team, Byanyima contends that her husband, Dr. Kiiza Besigye, and Hajji Obeid Lutale are currently held illegally by Luzira government prison, following the Supreme Court decision that banned the trial of civilians by the military court.
Because as you are aware, the Attorney General declined to give us a copy of that communication. He only stated, and we took it as a verifiable fact. So we came to verify, and it is true. It's confirmed that he wrote to the Chief Justice, but we have again not been able to access a copy of that communication. Probably it would have enabled us to see if there are discrepancies that we need to highlight or to clarify.
Byanyima also revealed that the continued detention of the two infringes on their right to liberty, as guaranteed under Article 20, 21, and 23 of the Constitution of Uganda as amended.
We are concerned that there is continued delay in implementing the orders of the Supreme Court of the land. Since Friday, 31st January 2025, Dr. Besigye, Hajji Obeid Lutale continue to languish in prison illegally because there is no legal or valid warrant against them.
We take exception to that practice where now Dr. Besigye, Obeid Lutale and others are being remanded on orders of the one and only Chiwanuka Chiriowa Nsumikambi as the Attorney General. So the Attorney General has arrogated himself those powers.
She now wants High Court to issue an habeas corpus to produce Dr. Kiiza Besigye and Hajji Obeid Lutale dead or alive.
My appeal to the authorities in Uganda, the Supreme Court rendered a precedent-setting judgment, which confirms the obvious that Uganda, as a constitutional democracy, follows the rule of law. Do not paint a different picture by delaying the release of the people who ought to be released, and in particular, the release of Dr. Kiiza Besigye, Obeid Lutale.
Retired Dr. Kiiza Besigye and his co-accused, Hajji Obeid Lutale, were meant to appear at the General Court Martial on Monday this week. However, this was impossible following the Supreme Court decision. At the General Court Martial, Dr. Kiiza Besigye and Lutale were remanded on charges of treachery and unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. Deborah Namamonde, Viola Nansubuga, UBC News.